My name is Sally Potter, and I am going to shut this. No, opposite. Yeah, shut that. Okay. I am just really excited to be here today to introduce the CIT faculty, Computer Information Technology faculty, presenting their ZTC projects. And what we're going to do is, you see we have a number of presenters. We're going to kind of go through each person, give each person a turn, and they're going to talk about their project. Okay. And like that. Okay. Regarding questions, because we have so much content to cover, and we've got this kind of timed out, what we're hoping to have a few minutes at the end for questions. So for those of you who are in the room, maybe save your questions until we either pause for question break or at the very end. If you are joining us on Zoom, you can go ahead and type your question in the chat, and possibly someone that knows the answer can answer it as we go. If not, as we have time for questions at the end, we will, awesome, yeah. We will get to those questions, okay. And then if for whatever reason we miss your question or we didn't have time to cover it, please email one or more of us, and we can follow up with you later. Okay. So I want to just really quickly kind of set up the what this project is in terms of our ZTC grant funding. So there was a tremendous amount of money that the State Chancellor's Office allocated for ZTC programs. And at Fresno City College, we applied for a few different grants. You can see over here under the Acceleration Grant column, the CIT department applied for 2 different grants, human biology, library technology, and Spanish. We also applied. And then we also got some funds for child development. And so this money is for a couple different things. For one, it is to support ZTC programs in general, but specifically it is to fund the instructors, the faculty of these departments to develop ZTC, what are called pathways, okay? And so a pathway is just any degree or certificate, but the certificate has to be a CTE certificate. This is the first round of grants that we're sort of in the middle of. There is a second round of grants that's coming out with 3 other kind of cute names and different stipulations. And the deadline for those is mid-December. So those can fund either whole pathways, whole programs, or they can also fund individual courses, depending on the specifics of your program. So if you're interested in, investigating to see if this is going to work for you, or if you want to pursue this, we have a session that is going to cover a little bit more information about the grants directly after this one. So you can join that, or if that doesn't work for your schedule, you can contact me or Linda Kobashigawa, who I thought was here, but oh yeah, there she is right there. And we can give you more information and investigate how to look into that. We're willing to come to your department meetings, come to division meetings, meet with you, whatever time. So just please reach out to us. Okay. And then with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dennis, who is our lead faculty in the CIT program, to introduce the projects.
Thanks so much, Sally. These are exciting grants that we were awarded. And our goal, our objective of these grants for the first module here was to demonstrate using OpenAI tools what we can do in the classroom. So today you're going to hear from the lead of each of the pathways, and I'll end up giving you a general view of the tools that we use for this. This is a ZTC grant, so the tools that we are showing you today are to enable or make a zero textbook cost classroom environment easier. Also, you will probably hear this throughout the day. Our next phase is we are going to be testing particular projects. So if you see something that you'd like, send an email to me, to Rio, to Vern. I'm sure we'll have our email here available for you, but we are soliciting testers. So with that, I will turn it over to Rio for our first demonstration.
Thanks, Dennis. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Rio Waller, and I'm here with my friend and my buddy and my co-mate.
Hello, I'm Rick.
So before we get started, first, I'd like to thank Dennis, because without Dennis, this wouldn't have never happened. Okay, so you have to have a champion, somebody willing to really make these things happen from the grant perspective. And without those people, we don't get to do what we get to do, which we got to do something really fun. I just have to say this, like when you teach technology as we do, having somebody say, go find out what's happening is really freaking exciting. Matter of fact, it's totally overwhelming because the pace of AI right now is beyond. And is it going to change? Who knows? I mean, I know there's issues right now because these companies, I don't know if you know this, are not making money. These companies are not making money. They're losing a lot of money. We have an environmental impact. But regardless of all of that, in education, because in the private sector, they are embracing AI at a huge fast pace. So we need to at least figure out how we're going to do it. Now, what we're going to show you today, and we call it a proof of concept, but it's actually beyond a proof of concept. Would you agree, Rick?
That's a full product.
It's pretty close to a full product. Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to start with today is I wanted to go to ChatGPT, because I suspect, okay, let me just ask this. How many of you have used ChatGPT at some level? Yeah. Okay. So one of the things I suspect as instructors, we might think about is kind of what I did over here, which is, and this is a prompt, right? So how many of you know what a prompt is? It's a question, right? It's the way you start a conversation. Is it different than the way we do it in a search engine?
In more detail.
Yeah, you can, and it's more conversational, okay? So in this case, what I asked, which I think we could all start thinking about if you're not already doing, it's like create a comprehensive 18-week course on client-server databases involving both theoretical and practical projects, blah, 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 blah. The more detail you give it, the better the results you're going to get. Okay? This context window, right, is my input to the AI, and of course it gives me back something. So when we started thinking about this, Rick and I were really like, how can we help instructors maybe create a new class, redoing a class, considering these concepts or using some of these tools? And then we kind of switched, right, Rick? You wanna say anything about kind of how we made that movement?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, there's so many things that we can do in AI. And one of the things that I think would be beneficial for instructors is to use vector databases, and before I go into very details with that, an instructor, if they want to make like a course, but they might have their course in molecular biology, like an LLM, like ChatGPT or something like that. They don't have all the information it needs. So what we were thinking about is like, can we make our courses and, in the same vein of like ZTC and all these things, like, can an instructor have almost like an assistant? And, and when we use vectors, and don't worry about the big name vector database, but, the instructors can use that information with the chatbot or the LLM, and it makes it a superpower. So, that's one of the applications that we're thinking about. And we're still working.
Yeah, we'd still
working on
like
that
to
as
do
well.
something in that area, but if you don't mind me taking it from there.
Sure.
So from there, though, we start thinking about, let's assume we have a tool like that actually allows an instructor to give a prompt. And of course, it's iterative and it creates a really nicely laid out course. Then what would they do with that? They would then maybe take it to Canvas and maybe have it build out their Canvas shell. But they were like, you know what? This is just teaching instructors how to prompt. And we really do need to learn, by the way. If you don't, and it sounds like we're all kind of starting at a good place. So we kind of went to the next step. We said, what would happen? How would we take this concept and integrate it into a Canvas assignment for the students? So we moved from looking at it from the instructor perspective to saying, how can we make this something we use at a student level? Because an LLM is basically, and I hope Sally doesn't mind I say this, a huge OER. Yeah, right? I at least got one yeah in the room, and I'm happy about that, right? Right? Now, you can debate if that information is quality, and I definitely think that's something we have to think about. But what we said is, can we create something that the instructor dynamically could set up as an assignment in their Canvas shell to then send that student to the chatbot, have them interact there, and bring that information back to Canvas? So you want to see it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Does it sound exciting?
I can.
I'm not excited at all. I'll really try to dampen it down just a couple of notches. Okay. So here's an example. Again, this is all configurable by the instructor. We have an introduction, which was basically your prompt. Not basically, it is your prompt. Now, in this case, this prompt, we could talk about it in detail. We probably don't have enough time today. We'd love to talk to you about kind of how this sets the tone of the conversation that the student is about to have. But in this case, it ends with the topic. So we want to have the student do some chatbot generative AI discussion about the topic of the difference between the web and the internet. And then at some point, and these steps become buttons you're going to see in a minute. Again, completely configurable by the instructor. And then we have take a deeper dive, and then did I learn?
Yeah, and this idea of guided chat, like I do a lot of hackathons in San Francisco, so I've been working with the AI scene over there, working with a lot of companies out there. And this is one of the ideas from the hackathons that I thought was a really good idea, to use a guided chat. Because I think a lot of times the problem that we have, and I'll finish really quick. I'm sorry, I know you had to start. One of the problems we have is like, a lot of people are like, I just don't want to just chat. I just don't want to, like, sometimes you're like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to start. This is just a good way. This is just a UX or UI way of doing this a little bit differently and with a guided approach. So you're like, oh, like I can click this button and now I can see this prompt to, kind of help people get acclimated into how to write, prompts and chats.
So when the student in this case clicks on start chat assignment, it takes it over to now we're off Canvas. Okay. We're in a different system. This is the one that Rick built. And in this case, the student would have to enter their ID number. Now, if you, as the instructor, and you'll see this, enter your ID number, this will be submitted as a student, just like our test student that we have in Canvas now. Okay. So the next thing that happens is they get a disclaimer, or in this case, verifying it is them. Now, we could go into detail about why we had to do this step, and we're happy to have a conversation outside of here. There's reasons why we had to do it this way. But the student then would then agree, and they would also at this point be prompted to say, everything you're about to do is going to be saved. Now, let's be clear about this. What they're about to do in the chatbot in their conversation will be saved. but there is no student data saved beyond Canvas. Once this chat session is over, it is over from the data perspective. And Rick and I had a really high priority around that. You want to say anything about that?
If you have any questions.
Yeah. If you have any
I know
questions.
that, you know, we only have 15 minutes, but,
Right.
and I know I get too excited about all of this, but if you have any general questions, but we really look at like PPI, you know, where we're gonna put these on, like, you know, we don't wanna, you know, we don't wanna serve on an application. We wanna make sure that, like, even as far as like, there's, you know, endpoints when you can see, you know, students' grades and all those things. So we think about like FERPA and all these, but we definitely like looked into this extensively. So if you have any questions with that, definitely reach out to me.
Okay, so here the student now is presented what looks like basically what they had in Canvas, but now of course they have the chat window, okay? And then what the idea is, if they're gonna hit introduction, which is basically gonna send the system prompt to the chat bot, which by the way, at this point, the chat bot does not know who the student is. It is done at a system level, so we're not passing, as we said before, any of that student data over. So then the first thing is you get the, you know, and it in this case, it prompts it and then you get the grade, right? So we want to have the student talk about or discuss chatbot, interact about the differences between the web and the internet, which by the way, anybody know the answer? Okay, you can use my chat. Okay, no, sorry. Yeah, cool. I knew you did, Mr. Walker. All right, so in this case, right, great. So what it starts with them like, what's your understanding? Right? So what's the student's understanding now? Could the student say, and I know they wouldn't, I don't know? Yeah, that's okay. So you can hopefully feel the friendliness of this conversation already. By the way, that's set at that system prompt, which you can, as an instructor, change. This is just the one we started out with. Okay? That's okay. Let's break it down. The internet is global. And now, right, how would you define? So it's again asking the student to see how well they understand. Now, somebody might be thinking what I did at this point. Well, why don't they just go out to ChatGPT and copy and paste an answer in? They can't. We've actually prevented them. So even if they did go out to ChatGPT, which I don't think is a bad thing, they at least have to type it. And there is a level of learning that happens when you type something, right? Okay, so let's, at this point now, the instructor is going to set a certain rubric of how much interaction they would want the student to have here. I would say, because I'm actually going to deploy this in one of my classes, I'm going to tell them I want at least several prompts that they go through and converse in this introduction stage. And then they would go into the deep dive, which would take them then further down. So now it's going to drill down and talk about protocols. And again, could the student say, I don't know? Yes, they could. So you're going to get some more information, but the idea is, and you could give this student some, hey, go do some research if you feel like you don't, because it's also, do we know this? Our students all come in at different levels, right? So one of the ways you're going to get to assess students in this sense is how well did they interact here? I'm excited and I'm going to try to tamp it. Okay, last step here is now we have the chatbot say, did I learn? So now we actually have the ability to have the chatbot instead of kind of, you know, casually, now we want you to answer some questions. So now if my student did this, I don't know, of course their grade on this assignment is going to be very low. Because the idea is that I want to know what they know. But let's say they did that, right? I don't know. The chatbot would continue to be friendly and continue to teach them. But at some point, the idea is to move to submit assignment. Because at this point, they've at least gone through our, I know I'm talking a lot. Rick, is there anything you want to interject here?
Sure. Well, you know, like as far as like, you can also prompt this in a way that like, if they don't answer, you don't give them the answers.
Yeah,
So there's
you
a
can
lot of
change that
different
system.
ways to do
Yeah.
this. I think the other thing I did want to say is I do really appreciate, you know, because when we talk about prompts and prompt engineering, I know some of you know about prompts, but then you take it even further. I really admire Rio looking up a really interesting way to do prompting and this idea, I think it was the Feynman technique.
Mhm.
And so like these are things that you can incorporate within the prompt. So like it's always hard to find like, ideal ways to teach people through like LLMs. And I think that the Feynman technique is a very good way to do that.
To be completely transparent, I found it on Reddit.
Very reliable source.
All right, so let's go to the last step. Thank you, Rick. And that is, I just wanted to be completely transparent that that's where I found it. I loved it though, because it immediately created what I wanted. That prompt did. So, which is the power of prompting. Okay, prompt engineering, writing prompts. I think we call it engineering. It's not. I think that's a bad term. But in this case, let's go ahead and submit the assignment. So at this point, when we submit the assignment, I don't know if you saw it go by real quick, at the very top it said assignment submitted. At this point, then the student can no longer interact with the chatbot. They go back to Canvas as the instructor can, and now they will have an assignment. That assignment, now by the way, my chat, I'm gonna move you guys, right? So that instructor gets a record of that chat discussion and now grades it. And now also can highlight to the students, maybe a summative form, what the chatbot got wrong, or where they saw the students need to kind of fill in some information that maybe they hadn't done in some of their lectures or something. Okay, that's our presentation. Are we gone over? Are we over time?
8 minutes.
We have 3 minutes? Wow, we have 3 minutes. Can we take questions? Would that be okay if we took a few questions? Do we have questions that you guys want to ask us?
So is it, you created this?
We created this.
Yes.
Is this gonna be in production and available, or are you just in test mode right now?
We are in test mode and we're looking, we're gonna meet with the business education folks today. I think that'll be our first test group. But we would like to roll this out, but there are some restrictions that we have to overcome. Most commonly, my credit card is on the OpenAI API. And I don't want to make sure we don't give this to everybody until we're ready. Yeah.
Similar question on Zoom. Someone said, is it open to faculty districts wide?
It is the goal that we have, because this grant really, it was focused for us on the ZTC for the web development program. That's our part of it. But when we were building this, we really felt like this could be way beyond us. And we wanted it to be if there was interest in this. And this is really the other thing I would say, and Rick could probably talk to this as well, is that this is just step one. We have a lot more we want to do here. Like, instead of just providing one prompt to the chatbot, let's provide a lot more, because the context window, right?
Yeah. And also we're thinking, sorry to change, it's also like we're working on open sourcing it at some point.
Yeah.
So
For sure,
once we
yeah.
get all the, the bugs fixed, everything else, we definitely want to share that with the rest of the world. So
For sure.
So even further than just district.
And then I just wanted to mention that as part of the stipulation of these state grants, the materials that the faculty create, develop, those are supposed to be made available to all California Community College faculty. So at the end of the term of the grant. So that's the goal. So not only, for our district, our institution, but for the state.
And just to say here, to create a new assignment, you just take that assignment, you duplicate it, put in your new prompt, and you're good to go. So, any other questions? Yeah.
Another one on Zoom. Someone said, are you asking / requiring that students give credit when using AI for any / all assignments?
In my class, are you asking specific? So I think this varies per class. I know this varies per class. For me, I have a discussion at the beginning of the semester because I teach coding. And I tell students, yes, you go find an answer out there. Absolutely. Will it help you when you come into a technical interview with me? No. Because really part of what we want you to learn is really developing your problem solving skills. So that will not help you. But will they? Yeah, they are going to. I think we kind of have to figure out how to. So I can't speak to everybody's approach to this, but I can tell you for me, I tell them, use it, but understand that if you only use it and don't develop your own skill set, it won't be helpful to you.
So that's your time.
Okay, that's my time. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, my.
Me, if you want to sign up. Or,
Oh, yeah.
like, or any information, just give me your email. We didn't have time to make a sign up sheet, so just come see me.
Okay,
Cool.
Well, good morning. I'm Vern Farley, and I've learned a couple of things on these projects. I really appreciate the people I'm working with. Dennis and Sally have been great on involving us in this project. And also, I also learned never follow Rio in a presentation. So in order to mitigate that, I brought my colleague, Matt Hodge. He's going to give you a presentation in just a few minutes, and that will hopefully get you a little more information than what I'm going to show you in our presentation. Is there some way to get that out? Hide it. There we go. So Matt and I are both instructors in the computer information technology area. We work on networking and security, so we are cybersecurity instructors. And we're going to discuss our projects, the current state of consumer level AI, and using those chatbots and how we can use those tools ethically and effectively in our academic environment. Our two projects are braided. So we have the CMC or Soft Start and the ZTC project, and we're working to combine those two grant projects in order to do OER and ZTC in our courses. We've gone out into the communities, the local communities, to help disenfranchised people in local libraries and adult schools to teach them digital literacy, and then provide on-ramps into our cybersecurity certificate program. And two of our courses are already well on their way to have complete OER and ZTC, and they're also registered for dual enrollment. So we're reaching out to multiple different communities. And then today, so that was here. And on this presentation, I have some links. So when you get the presentation online, you can go and you can look up the Connecting Minority Communities grant that we're working on. And then the Zero Textbook Costs is the one we're working on today. So our discussion today is going to involve the consumer level chatbots. And so a little different from what Rio and Rick are working on, since they're incorporating a chatbot into Canvas, we're just going to simply discuss what's available right now. And the biggest thing that we have found in our research is the different ways now that we can communicate with our computers, and our computers can now have this human-like conversation. So we interact with our computers in a little different way. So if you've had an opportunity to use a consumer level AI chatbot, you've seen this before, but one of the things we're finding is that many of our students have not, and they don't have a lot of great experience with using consumer level AI. So we start out with what can a chatbot do? And so you'll recognize many of these things. Chatbots can generate essays, and they can solve problems. They can help debug programs. They can translate, and they can provide personal assistance. Some of the very general things that we use, but they're very, very powerful. And so one of the things we never get through whenever we discuss generative AI is the problems with it. How do we guarantee bias and fairness? How do we recognize that the people who program the generative AI will have their biases present? And so how do we critically evaluate the output that comes from a generative AI? How do we ensure privacy so that sensitive information isn't shared out in places it doesn't belong? And how do we provide academic integrity so that students don't fall into pitfalls of things like plagiarism and things that can actually hinder student learning? So if there's all these pitfalls, why do we use it at all? Well, what we would like to argue is that there are many ways we can use it ethically and fairly. And one of the ways that we have found is enhanced feedback. We can use AI to provide some initial feedback, and then that gives an instructor more time to give more considered feedback and provide personalized comments add on to that. We can create resources like practice tests and quizzes phenomenally faster than we ever could before. And we can automate some of the routine tasks that take a lot of time that keep us from spending that significant time with students. On a personal note, since I've been using generative AI, I've become a better writer. So I take every piece of correspondence I create, I put it into a generative chat, and I allow it to analyze it. I reread it the way that it's modified it. And so my grammar, my spelling, but even my prose has improved because I'm focused more on the writing process with the generative AI. From a student's perspective, it's a great study aid and it provides great writing assistant. It can generate outlines, correct grammar, and suggest improvements. So from the basic standpoint of a student writing, their writing can improve right away. So one of the things I've done is looked at the National Education Association task force recommendations, and some of them are listed here. The main point of their recommendations is that students and instructors should remain at the center of education. And so generative AI is very powerful, but it's the people that really, really matter. Complement, don't replace. Don't use generative AI to replace the learning process, but let it complement the process. So what I'd like to invite Matt to come up and do is give what we call prompt engineering, but it's simply a way to use the generative AI to improve and to complement the work that we're already doing.
All right, hello, folks. So prompt engineering, it's kind of a buzzwordy term. We didn't make it up. In all my LinkedIn feeds, anytime you use a chat bot to tell it to do anything, it's prompt engineering. It'll probably be called something else a year from now. Quick context for my perspective on this. I worked both in the college. I worked for Fresno Unified as a CTE instructor for 8 years. I know the public sector and I value education. I also work in the private sector as a software engineer with my own LLC, and AI is not going away. Everything is how do we use AI to make product, or how do we use AI to write better code? So I have a great many reasons to be interested in this topic. And what you're going to hear a lot from me is some opinion. So I'm not telling you this is how it has to be. This is the start of a conversation. And I choose to approach it cautiously optimistic. Now, first, I'll just give you 2 scenarios. One, a world where academia doesn't embrace AI and use it as a tool. Sarah Kahn, how does the world end in the future? Corporations create algorithms that tell people how to think and everyone becomes dumb. You don't like that future. I think college and school need to be involved in the conversation. That future, I think, looks more like this.
No, it wasn't made of wood. It was smoother, more metallic.
Computer, make this a metal table.
Yeah. Yeah, that's starting to look right.
I love some Star Trek, TNG especially. And to me, when I think about the future of what does AI become, it's the computer on the Enterprise and integrated into every Federation ship. It's a fantastic tool that allows us to solve these high-level problems in a tight 45-minute episodic format. And I think we can get there if we shape the future of it. Okay, so for the demonstration today, we're using Copilot. Why am I suggesting Copilot over ChatGPT or anything else? If you have one and you're comfortable with it, then I'm not. It comes down to this. Your IT department won't have a problem with it. Copilot is a Microsoft product already available to you, part of the Microsoft suite of tools. You can log in and access it. So if you or IT or anyone has any privacy concerns, it's no more concerning than using Office 365, SharePoint, or OneDrive. It's a Microsoft product. You can trust it as much as you care to trust Microsoft, which IT generally does. All right. So what are quality prompt engineering practices? I'm going to show you what this looks like, but these 4 things are really what it is. Be specific in your goal. What do you want the AI to produce? Context for that goal. Why do we want this goal? What is the point of this goal? Clear expectations. What do I want you to give me? What does creating that goal look like? And then iterate, because the first time it does it, it won't be right. Iterate, go back over the process. And we're going to look at how an instructor can use this. And then we're going to look at how a student might approach it. All right. So I am not going to go over and read everything to you about this. These example Copilot conversations are linked in the PowerPoint. So if you like later on your own time, you can consider what I've said here and read through this and see how you might apply it in your own situation. So I teach cybersecurity. We have this thing in cybersecurity called the CIA triad, and I won't turn this into a lecture on what the CIA triad is, other than to know CIA stand for 3 different concerns in cybersecurity. So I want to generate 3 discussion topics. My prompt is, this is what I'm telling the AI Copilot, consider the CIA triad as it pertains to cybersecurity. With that in mind, generate 3 discussion topics for students in a community college cybersecurity course. I'm giving it context. Why am I looking for this? Topic 1 is the C, topic 2 is the I, and topic 3 is the A. And for each discussion question, cite a recent cybersecurity incident and discuss how the letter is involved for each. All right, each discussion should be returned. Each discussion should be returned as information. See, it's really good at knowing what words I missed in my spelling. So, yeah, it's very forgiving. Anyway, how the letter is assigned, and then ask the students to contribute their thoughts on some aspect of the incident. End each question by reminding the students to respond to at least 2 classmate posts by Wednesday. Okay, so we have been specific. The goal is to generate these 3 discussion topics. The context is students in a cybersecurity course. All right, as we go down, here's what it generates. It's friendly. It says, sure, here you go. Topic 1, confidentiality. Okay, so I can read through this and I can see this is a good discussion topic. Topic 2 looks good. I saved these as a JPEG, so if it's blurry, just wait for it to load. Topic 3, availability. Okay, that looked good to me, but my students maybe don't know all the technical jargon. So, hey, AI, this is iteration. Can you rephrase these discussions to be at a 4th grade reading level? That dumbs down all the jargon. No, that's the wrong term, I know, but I said it. There it is. Dumbs down all the jargon so that people that aren't yet familiar with the jargon maybe know what it's talking about. Here's the problem. It says the bad people use real email addresses. The bad people. Well, now that's condescending. It's a cybersecurity course, right? So then I move on. And later down here in the discussion, I ask it, okay, replace the bad people with the term hackers or malicious users as appropriate. And then it gives me that response. Now, after all this iteration, I've developed my final prompt, and it will give me these great discussion topics every time. And here's the great thing about this discussion prompt. Really? Okay. Here's the great thing about this discussion prompt. The topic is variable. I said current cybersecurity attacks. I can rerun this prompt daily, and the examples will change. So when I go to have my next cybersecurity class in the spring, I will rerun the prompt and update the discussions. And now all my discussions stay relevant, but I am in control. I wrote them. The AI did not come up with it. I engineered the discussion. Okay, I'm running short on time, I am told. So you can look through the student one yourself, but the basic idea behind the student one is a student is not going to necessarily know how to be specific. So you want the student to exercise these skills you're learning, but they're new to the subject. So my student discussion starts with the student just asking a question and demonstrating how they can learn to become specific. Now, what is the point of allowing students to use it and get things done? Well, if an essay can be written faster, you can allow opportunities for differentiated learning, meaning we don't just leave the essay as like the end all be all of whether or not they learned the knowledge. They got that done in a shorter amount of time. And if you look at the process of writing it, it'll make sense how they did have to encounter the information and learn it. But now you can do project-based activities, which that's me and my CTE background. Anytime you can get hands-on with an idea or a concept and prove that the knowledge you researched actually helps you make better decisions or take some productive action. I like this move towards differentiated learning and project-based learning. And I think a student's ability to craft an essay in this new way where they're like building it and they have to embrace the knowledge of it. You can do little tests along the way, like ask the student to dumb it down. That essay generated, inform students, tell it to rewrite it like it's for a 6th grader because you don't know what all the language means. Instead of writing this essay that clearly you didn't write because it uses all these big words, bring it down, dumb it down. I did it again, I say that a lot. Bring it down and elevate it up. Instead of generating this essay, you don't understand the topic hardly, you can't understand the language, and so you start trying to tweak it and tune it and make it sound like you wrote it. No. Tell the AI to bring it down and that you understand what's written and you start bringing it up to your level. So you digest the information, you build it faster, and there you go. Potential upshots. That was potential upshots, pitfalls, errors, and sources of information. Ask your AI to cite links. And when you ask it to cite links, say, what are the sources for this information? And give it to me with links. Otherwise, it will literally give you a list of links. And then the last thing I'll just end with is when you're talking to the AI, treat it like a child. Imagine a toddler or a teenager, right? You need to give them specific instructions to do the laundry. Who would have thought one of those instructions would also have to be, and don't eat the Tide Pods. But it's 2024 and here we are. And so your AI needs to be treated that specifically. All right, create context, rules, contain it. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be on the enterprise in 200 years. All right, I'm gonna hand it back to Dennis. Thank you for your time. Feel free to check out the links and the slides and get some ideas going of your own. Probably should take that.
Good job, Matt. Wonderful presentations from both the pathway leads. I appreciate you very, very much. This is my personal story about using AI-enabled technology. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but I got an email. This was from it was summer school computer literacy class of CIT 12. It's our lowest class. And let's see. So I forget what state I was in, but here's the student. Hello, Professor. I am messaging requiring my ability to complete my assignments in my lab IT. It seems that my laptop mouse is not working. I am not able to right click and it is hindering me in completing my task. I have ordered a new mouse and should receive it no later than Saturday. I plan to work diligently to complete all my assignments on time. However, I'm not able to reach that goal. Would it be okay if they are late? Is there a way to make it up? So I will tell you as a overwhelmed online instructor, my first inclination was to ignore this. What do you mean your mouse doesn't work? You're taking an online class. But no, I took a second and I used ChatGPT, probably the model. It really doesn't matter what the model was. I think it was probably Omni. And I gave it a really short prompt. And I asked it to reply to the student. And this is the reply that Omni came up with. And the reply is perfect, right? Greeting, addresses the issue, ends with a forward-looking positive statement. Remember, the key to success is persistence and determination. If you encounter any further difficulties or need more time, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Stay positive and keep pushing forward. And did I create this? Well, I wrote the prompt and asked my AI to create it. But look at the response that I got back. Thank you so much for your understanding and encouragement. I will tell you, I would have lost the CIT 12 student, probably if I didn't even reply to her. She just would have said, oh, this is too much for me. So, you know what? How long did it take me to just use ChatGPT? Again, I did not use Python. I did not use LangChain. I did not access the OpenAI API, the Canvas API, you know, all that programming stuff. No, I just used ChatGPT for this. And I have a few other stories like this too. And probably most importantly, now I will use ChatGPT to help me. If I get a student that appears, and this happens more frequently than I would like to say, in an online class, they're just abrupt and they sound rude and they sound demanding. And I remember I had one student just happened recently. I was really upset about his tone. And so I marched into my dean's office and, was enraged about this. I want this student kicked out of my class. And, he calmed me down. And anyway, it was a process. And finally we got to, well, there are values that the institution, that our college communication values, right? I mean, we heard about this from the chancellor, be nice. So anyway, so now I have those resources. And when I get that, what I would, when I get rude communications from the students, I give that with my, I have a little prompt template. I give that with a little prompt template to ChatGPT, and I come up with a response. And you know what? My blood pressure doesn't go up. I'm not worked up about it. It works. So as my personal stories, I understand all the, the negatives about AI. I understand about the over-reliance on it. Vern brought up I appreciated Vern's story about he has become a better writer because of ChatGPT. I don't know, I have to assess that myself. Have I become a better writer? I think I've suffered a little bit from using ChatGPT. I was always a good writer. My papers were always read in class as examples, things like that. But ChatGPT, I will tell you, is a better writer than me. Number one, it doesn't get mad. It has time. It will always have time to create a reply. And that's my personal story for it. Why we should use these AI-enabled tools to our benefit, right? It's just a tool. It's either a benefit or a hazard. There are some hazards, right? The over-reliance, that's a hazard. You could send a possibility. You could send a rude email out to your whole class by mistake, right? I mean, if you allowed your AI to do that, that would be a hazard. But I like to think it's having some benefits. And this was another one. Thank you for reaching out and sharing your situation with me. I want to know there are no penalties for submitting late work at summer school. I understand you're going. This one was the student had a personal issue that it was almost the TMI thing. I didn't know what to do with it. So again, I asked ChatGPT, and this is the response I got. Wonderful. So please take your time. Please take the time you need to get better, and feel free to reach out if you need any assistance or extensions. I would not have, I don't know. I would have ignored this email. That's what would have happened. I just would have ignored it. I'm just a teacher. I can't deal with these with the personal problems, but no, I got some help. So if you teach a ZTC class, actually, if you teach any class, what tools do you need? I think as when I first answered this question, it was, well, I don't have the resources that I would have from a publisher. I don't have exams. So I created a bot that will create exams. How do I do that? Again, the tools I use, I program in the Python language. I access OpenAI's API, and that means that the chatbot that I create comes from OpenAI. And I use another product. It's called a framework. It is basically a collection of programming procedures that allows me to, was mentioned by Rick here, it allows me to vectorize my class. So Python, OpenAI API, LangChain, OPI, and a whole bunch of other dependencies, whatever my code tells me. And then I can really create whatever the heck I want, right? So I can create exams. I can create midterms. I have created midterms. I have to create the knowledge base of my class. That can be difficult in an OER class. One of my testers, she did not have I said, well, where's your PDF book? Sure, you have it. No, I don't have a book. I just have, I have videos. Oh my gosh. So by hand, I had to go and transcribe the videos, but eventually I was able to make a knowledge base for that. And then I can, like I said, with the help of just accessing the Canvas API and having the right chatbot, having the right prompts, I can do anything I want, like reply to discussions, like grade a test. And anyway, so my question to you is, and I am looking for testers right now, the two pathways that are going on, those are going to be wonderful. We're going to have the grant's going to be successful, but really, what tools do you need? And I would just open, even if you're not teaching an OpenAI or a ZTC class, what tools do you need? So, another slide do I have? Oh, the study bot. So this is probably one. All of your classes should have like a course study bot. And my goal was to develop all of these things in an afternoon, and I ended up doing it late last night. That the study bot that I was doing, it's a technical issue. Rio kind of mentioned it. I ran into problems because when I was trying to deploy it, I was trying to deploy it on a platform called Hugging Face because it's free, and probably the third time that I rewrote my code and sent it to deploy, and it was taking too long, right? Because I was using the free version. So my study, I could not create a study bot for free in 15 minutes. However, the discussion replies, does it matter who replies to a discussion? The first time I created a bot and it replied to my discussions, it was just spooky. It was spooky. It had my name on it, and the replies, they accessed this knowledge base that I created, and they called the students by name, and it was just, I don't know, it was kind of freaky. I've kind of gotten used to it now. I think the problem with having a discussion reply and just having your bot do it for you is that you don't want to dupe your students, right? And the response that I got from that class was, this is the most responsive, you are the most responsive online instructor I've had. So what am I supposed to say? Sorry, fooled you. I'm an imposter. So, I think we have to get over that. And there are ways to do that. I use an interface. It's a really simple interface called Streamlit. So if you are using an AI enabled discussion reply tool, you can see the proposed reply. Then when you click yes, then that reply was from you, right? So ChatGPT or whatever GPT you're using will create the reply for you. You've actually looked at that. It's your ghostwriter, and you click on that. So other things, test creator mentioned that, essay grader, and then course summary and analysis. All of these things I am able to do. Give me a project. I'm not saying I will take it on, but like I say, I am looking for testers. If Sally has time when she wraps up, maybe she can take a look and look at a few of these things in the demonstration module of actually I'll say it, a live Canvas class. So I think that's it. So faculty testers are needed. If you are working on a ZTC or OER project, you will be paid a stipend. As the lead faculty for this, I know all about the administration of this. I know what a magic is. I will create your timesheets for you. But anyway, these are faculty testers that we needed. So if you saw anything that you liked today from anyone here, here's my email, dennis.mole@russellcitycollege.edu, and I'll make sure that happens. I think we're in wrap up. Okay, Sally is going to wrap up.
Okay, yeah, so we have about 15 minutes left, so I'll just wrap up real quick here, and then we can go to some questions. Yeah, okay. So I mentioned the first round of the ZTC grants, the state grants, and this project is being funded by those, but we do have the second round of grants. Currently, the deadline is mid-December. So if you're interested in this, if your department is interested in it, there are a couple different ways to go. One would be to create a full ZTC pathway, as the CIT department is creating. They actually have two of them. And then another way is to work on it course by course. So I can connect with you, and like I said earlier, I can come to your department meetings, or I can meet with you and your dean, whatever you think is appropriate, and we can talk about how to apply. So basically, we would figure out, how much time and work is going to be involved in converting the courses that need to be converted for your pathway or individual course, and then we'll write up a budget, and then we'll submit that. The way that the chancellor's office kind of works is we get sort of information and clarification as we go forward. So right now we don't know exactly all of the details, but we're keeping an eye on that. Okay, and then just want to say thank you. Here's the contact information. So Dennis mentioned that faculty testers are needed, and he kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I'm one of Dennis's faculty testers. And so what we did was rather than letting him into one of my live classes with students, we have a Canvas shell that we use for the linguistics faculty in the district. And so we use that. And so I might want to show that if we do have some time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. We need to, I know we're we need to somehow get because the pathway to all of this is through Canvas. So yes, we do not want to do this with a live class. We do need to figure out some type of a test Canvas environment.
Yeah, so that would probably include, having some sandboxes created, putting, what I did was put some of my colleagues into the course as students. And then I made up some kind of, fake little discussions and like test assignments, and then asked them to, complete those, and then we use those. Okay, so we do have about 15 minutes left. So if there's anything that you wanted, anything that anybody wanted to mention, or if there's questions.
Great question, you guys have?
It's not a question. I love using large language models. I think they're super, super valuable. And I was using one, I think it might have been Gemini. And I asked Gemini to give me a creative way to explain a quantum mechanic principle. And it's like, just any random one, just pick one. I don't care which one. I want to see this creativity, right? Help me with my creativity to help students understand this complex topic. And it came up with this really beautiful prompt. And I was like, oh, this is really good. Using simulation and metaphor and attaching it to this like interesting story. It's like, oh yeah, students might actually be able to understand it and relate to it. But then I got a little ADHD and I asked it about Conway's Game of Life. Nobody knows about Conway's Game of Life. People in the tech industry definitely do. And for some odd reason, I don't know why I was thinking about it. And I asked about it. And it told me about it. Then it gave me a short chunk of code so that I could run Conway's Game of Life. But then underneath it, it's like, however, here's Conway's Game of Life using the quantum mechanic principle.
Nice.
Which I didn't prompt at all. It just decided that since I was looking for creativity and brought this up, it then made a connection I never thought about trying. I haven't ran the code, so it probably actually wasn't that good. But I thought it was really, really powerful that it was like taking these ideas and kind of running with it. It's really good.
So maybe the people who are on Zoom right now couldn't quite hear that. So could you summarize?
Yeah, so if I was to summarize your question, it would be like you were kind of surprised when you gave it a prompt for something fairly complex. It gave you back an answer, but a beautiful answer, but it also extended that context beyond what you asked. Is that a summary of what you?
Yeah, it kept applying it to other questions I asked as I continued the conversation.
Yeah.
And also to answer to that too as well, like it's always, I think there's like two parts I want to say about that. It's like, we also have to be careful, like to not over anthropomorphize and think that like the chatbot is something that is like real and alive. Like there's a very bit, like what we're working on, not me, but what I'm using. I wish I was doing more of the training, but like with AI, there's like when you think of artificial intelligence, you think of like the general artificial intelligence is when they're going to be like, really like can think for themselves and do all these things like the thoughtful things that these AI things are doing. That's like narrow. So it's still a combination of training. This is like hours and hours, millions of dollars of people sitting down and writing these prompts and like doing all that training. So it might seem thoughtful, insightful, that it's like making really good thoughts. That is a result of training. Just so we know, like there's a big, there's a difference.
Yeah. I don't know. Was that a question or a comment?
Just so that people know what actually happened.
Yeah. It fills. Yeah. I think we have finish one up.
Yeah. I was just going to say, and when we develop these bots for education, there are specific parameters with the OpenAI bots that we can adjust to make it more creative, to give it have the chatbot give answers that are beyond the context there. So we can do that, and you've all probably heard of temperature. There are parameters that are there's 4 of the parameters beyond temperature that we can use for that. However, usually in education, we try to make everything as consistent as possible. So we try to fine tune the bot to give consistent answers. Bill, you had a question?
There was actually I'm sorry, over here first and then we'll go to Bill. Yeah.
So I will be teaching methodology relatively new to AI because it's briefly but how can you guys foresee using AI to help students understand that? I think the biggest thing to struggle with is visualizing certain structures or certain functions that we're using. Is there any?
So I'll repeat the question because I think it wasn't heard. It was I was teaching, and what was your subject? Anatomy and physiology, and how can I use it to help students visualize some of these concepts that are pretty ethereal for them and how to bring it real. Well, the image generation I think is really great for that because you give it a prompt of 3 or 4 concepts or however you want, go summarize or even have it help you summarize. It will help you create the prompt that you then send to a graphic, and actually even now ChatGPT, I heard last night, you can do up to 2 images a day on the free account. So there's many tools to help you take a text-based concept into an image-based concept.
Yeah.
Very, very clear.
To add to that, when we're talking about like generative AI, LLMs, a lot of you are barely even understanding just the text base, but we've taken it. Not we. Why do I keep saying we? Sorry, they have taken it. I love it. Yeah. But they've taken it even further, where you can take an image and you can ask what is the anatomical anatomy. I'm sorry, not that in that technical space, right?
Yeah.
But you can ask specific questions. You can upload an image, and this is what we call multimodal. So when I started, it was the text was really big. And I was like, oh, this is great. But now they're bringing images. Now they're even generating videos. So you could even generate a video later, not now, but with Sora and stuff like that. But these are things that are coming up.
How much time do we have left? And I know, Bill, you're next.
It's about 7 minutes.
Okay, so maybe we just try to keep our answers concise and say, please come talk to us.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
that sounds like a very, very interesting project that someone on the team here would be happy to undertake. So in any one of those emails will work. We communicate together all the time. And that goes for everyone. Tell us what you want, right? Tell us what you need.
So the knowledge base for all these Copilot, Gemini, whatever, and for the one you've created, right? It's all still the internet, right? Is that true?
From where it gets the information you're asking. So the question is that your question?
Yeah.
Let me understand. So your question is that really where it's getting the information?
Yes.
Yeah. So in general, yes, there are many ways that these things are reading information. And what's happening now is some websites are starting to close the door so that they will try to do things to not allow them to do it because of the concern about copyright, creative law. I mean, there's a lot of concerns about that. But in general, there are also a huge amount of data that they have access to that we may not because we don't search for that kind of stuff.
So I kind of already knew the answer to that.
Well, then why'd you ask? No, sorry.
Scaffold.
Here's my question. Then here's studies have been done, though I've said this before. 60 to 70% of the internet is flat out wrong.
Mm-hmm.
How do we resolve it?
Well,
Okay, so what we do is create a knowledge base.
repeat it because they're not going to hear it
So question is,
because it's so much.
large language models are trained on the internet. Most of the internet information is incorrect. How do we have our course chatbots communicate accurate information?
Right.
The way we do that is we create a knowledge base. I create a knowledge base. I use a framework called LangChain, and I can restrict my chatbot responses to the test, to the discussion. I can restrict my chatbot's responses just to what I have given it. That's called RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG. That's how we reduce hallucinations, and that's how we ensure that
our chatbots are speaking right. And one more thing that when we are developing these chatbots based on OpenAI, the OpenAI chatbot is a fairly safe chatbot. It's not going to say something really, destructive to the student. It's not going to, tell the student how to harm someone. So that in itself is a safeguard. But I get what you're saying. I mean, these chatbots, they're generative. So how do we control what they generate?
Can I
It's
ask
very
one more
important.
thing? When you're talking about the content of like what is getting trained, it also brings up a different question about like all these major companies
Back
and,
there that haven't spoken. Up.
oh, I'm sorry. But I'll finish up really fast. Yeah, but yeah, basically. But when you're talking about the content of what they're training, a lot of these big corporations that are making this, we don't have access to that. I'm gonna leave it at that. So we have to be careful with like people thinking that, oh, they're just grabbing anything from the internet. That's not true. And they also don't disclose what information they're getting. So.
Although we are starting to see sources like what you showed, you actually cited sources. I don't know if you want to chat about.
And OpenAI is actually working with a lot of news stuff too as well. So sorry.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
You want to just say anything and then we'll go to your question?
Yeah, it'll be quick.
Yeah,
It'll be
please
quick.
do.
Okay, everything people are talking about kind of relates to one of the cautionary points I didn't have a chance to get to about checking your sources. There's this, a lot of you have probably heard this example by now, but it was asked of chat, I think it was Google's AI, what are the ingredients to make a pizza? And one of the ingredients was something like 3/4 cup Elmer's glue. And you're like, how does that happen? If nobody knew how to make a pizza, they would do that. But it happens because there's so many articles on the internet by food artists about getting pictures of product, and food artists do put glue in the cheese. It makes the perfect cheese stretch on camera. So the information is all valid, but the computer doesn't know. So it comes down to context and giving it specific instructions. That was my last joke about telling your kids not to eat the Tide Pods as an instruction for doing laundry. Just like you have to tell the computer, what are the instructions to make a pizza without glue and for human consumption? Yeah. And so I think the big answer is we have to teach our students how to talk to the AI to get the best knowledge it can out of it.
Over here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I want the students to give me the function and the parameters and not just
the answer.
Us so we do an integral and try to spit out an answer. Can I get the LLM to recognize one of the good answers and one that should sign?
Yeah, that's what Dennis was talking on. Yeah, there is ways. It's just a matter of how you do it and how much work is it and how you want to approach it and deploy it. So yes, can you do it? Sure.
Ask us for that project. That's an interesting project.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, so I'm a research and planning analyst here. And so I was really interested in your guys' project, but you kind of you didn't really go too much into like the data that you'll be obtaining. So I'm curious about like what you're gonna do with the data that you obtain. Are you gonna do like a pre and post test to see like how successful at students were learning, or like how does that work?
Do you want to answer this?
Yeah, I don't mind answering this. So this is a proof of concept. Okay, it feels more like a product, but it's still a proof of concept. And that's one of the things we want to figure out. And that's why when we can get it in the hands of instructors, because we want to do some data mining for those answers to try to give that instructor some summarized data around that. So we don't know. I mean, that's where the prompt that you write and then the results of the chat need to be analyzed at some level. We don't have the answer to that, but we definitely know it's part of the pathway that eventually we need to get to.
We did talk about like, how we wanted to shape that, and since everything is saved on Canvas, we could aggregate that and like kind of figure out like finally taking the D certification. I don't know if anyone does any online stuff, but just talking about like student outcomes, how you can measure them. We're thinking about getting that data set as as far as like one course, and then kind of seeing how we can analyze that data set. So we did think about that, but we have the data. Now we can just, we
would love your help.
Yeah, that would be great.
Like, I would definitely.
On chat, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are officially out of time. Thank you very much. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. Thank you.